Spirit says do. 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 You gotta sing when the Spirit says sing. You gotta sing when the Spirit says sing. When the Spirit says sing, you gotta sing, oh Lord. Gotta sing when the Spirit says sing. 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 You gotta laugh when the Spirit says laugh. You gotta laugh when the Spirit says laugh. When the Spirit says laugh, you gotta laugh, Lord. You gotta laugh. Spirit says 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 laugh. Shout when the Spirit says shout. You gotta shout when the Spirit says shout. Shout when the Spirit says sound. Spirit says shout. 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 You gotta do when the Spirit says do. You gotta do when the Spirit says do. When the Spirit says do, you gotta do, oh Lord. You gotta do when the Spirit says do. 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 That's because my cat meowed at the end of the recording. You gotta meow when the Spirit says meow.
Oh, extra verbs.
Oh, yeah.
More time.
You gotta meow when the Spirit.
All right, River.
River. Next time.
Sam, you're killing me.
Curveballs, baby.
Huh?
Throwing you curveballs.
You are, and I don't care. I'm just gonna take them and laugh. There's a river flowing in my soul. There's a river flowing in my soul. And it's telling
Is this a great day or what? I know some of us kind of wondered if we'd ever get back into this place again, but oh ye of constant faith, we made it. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Boulder, Colorado. My name is Fred Cole, and I am the worship leader for this morning's services. And welcome to all of you that are joining us via the magic of the internet. Today is the first time that we will be sharing a service in both real time out there and virtually up there. And we hope you'll bear with us and forgive us any hiccups that happen. If you are a new or online visitor, please email our office manager, Amy Zen, and let us know how you found us. You'll find her email listed in the Zoom chat. And our church website also has a great deal of information about UUCB, our programs and other activities. So for those at home, please ensure that your microphones remain muted as you join the rest of us here for worship. Our speaker this morning is the Reverend David Schwartz. Right. And I think some of you may be a bit familiar with him. Reverend Schwartz is a graduate of the Harvard Divinity School and has served congregations in Minnesota and Illinois. Most recently, he and his wife, Terry, were co-ministers at the First Unitarian Society of Chicago. And also in Chicago, he filled a part-time position with the Beverly Unitarian Church. Now, 2 weeks ago, along with Matthew and Jay, their children, the family moved to a new home in Longmont. And that which is shared with Pilot, Maddie, Milton, Peter, and Holden. That's 4 cats and 1 very large dog. So we'll offer him the same welcome that we extend to every newcomer, not just to join our community, but to co-create it and to be an active part of it. It's my honor and pleasure this morning to welcome the Reverend David Schwartz to his new pulpit.
Thank you. It is awfully good to be here and to be outside at this church in the park that we've got going on. The first service got the jacket also, but I feel like the temperature has changed enough. We're going to do this a little more informally. It's wonderful to be with you this morning, and welcome back, welcome home.
Well, we've been waiting for this day for a long time, have we not? Oh my goodness. We've been waiting for you for a long time, and we're delighted that you're here, and we're excited for the future that we're about to create together. And we're delighted to be back at the building. I know we're outside the building, but isn't it gorgeous out here? Yeah.
It's really nice.
And it's the thing that makes it really gorgeous is being here with you.
Mhm.
So I know it's been a while since we've done a call to worship together in person, but a call to worship is a reminder of what we are here to do, an invitation to step out of ordinary time and into this hour apart. As we gather again in Community Home, our Unitarian Universalist Church of Boulder, I will share these words from Kenneth Patton.
This house, meaning not just this physical space we're next to, but this gathered community, this home we make together in person and online. This house is for the ingathering of nature and human nature. This is a house of friendships, a haven in trouble, an open room for the encouragement of our struggle.
It is a house of freedom, guarding the dignity and worth in every person. It offers a platform for the free voice, for declaring both in times of security and in danger, the full and undivided conflict of opinion.
This is a house of truth seeking, where scientists can encourage devotion to their quest, where mystics can abide in a community of searchers. This is a house of art, adorning its celebrations with melodies and handiworks and seeing no conflict between science and mystery and beauty.
It is a house of prophecy, outrunning times past and times present in visions of human progress and the possibility of justice made real here and now.
This house is a cradle for our dreams and a workshop for our common endeavor.
Gathered here in the mystery of the hour, gathered here in one strong body, gathered here in the struggle and the power. Spirit, draw near. Gathered here in the mystery of the hour, gathered here in one strong body, gathered here in the struggle and the power. Spirit, draw near. Gathered here in the mystery of the hour, gathered here in one strong body, gathered here in the struggle and the power. Spirit, draw near. Spirit, draw near. Spirit, draw near. Spirit, draw near. Oh, we give thanks for this precious day, for those gathered here and those far away, from this time we share with love and care. Oh, we give thanks for this precious day. Oh, we give thanks for this precious day, for us gathered here and those far away, for this time we share with love and care. Oh, we give thanks for this precious day.
If you're joining us online and have a candle or a chalice near your computer, now's the time to get ready to light it. And the rest of you will just have to watch. Our chalice lighters this morning are Ingrid Torres Encalada and her family.
Can I put that? Thank you. Pastor. Oh, yeah. Okay. We are too sure. So, good morning, everybody. Hola, hola. So, bienvenidos regreso a casa. Es un placer poder compartir este lugar con ustedes después de tanto tiempo. Se me ha dado el privilegio de tener este gran castillo completamente desocupado para mi pequeña familia. Como siempre sigo peleando por la justicia divina He aplicado para una queda legal. Actualmente estoy esperando una respuesta de mi abogado. Con los dedos cruzados y la esperanza de que todo salga bien. Los niños han empezado la escuela. Brian ya empezó al middle school, que es el 8º, y Aníbal, que está a kindergarten, que está aquí cruzando el puente, y Elizabeth, que se ha ganado una beca y que estará empezando mañana un pequeño part-time. Me da felicidad verlos a todos sanos de vuelta. Espero verlos más seguido pronto, pero por este momento hay que seguir todos los cuidados.
Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. Welcome back to the church back home. It is my pleasure to be sharing this space with all of you guys again after so much time. Although it's been quite a privilege to have this entire castle all to myself with my little family. You are all very much missed. As always, I continue to fight for divine justice. I have recently applied for a stay of removal, which will grant me the opportunity to be in the U.S. legally for some time. I am currently waiting for my lawyer's response with my fingers crossed in hope that everything will work out in my favor. My children are now attending school. Brian will be going into 8th grade, middle school, which is me. And Aniba will be going into kindergarten right here in Eisenhower, which is really good. And Elizabeth earned a scholarship, which will be attending an early childhood education center. Makes me incredibly happy to see that all of you are healthy, and I hope to see your faces more frequently soon. But for now, let's continue to stay safe and follow all the guidelines.
Hello. Okay. Brian. Well said, Brian. Thank you.
Our chalice is lit. Thank you, Ingrid. Become our favorite family in this last 2 years. And we now invite all of those who are gathered here and also in cyberspace to join together in fellowship and community as we say aloud our congregation's covenant. Please repeat each line after me. We gather in fellowship to speak truth to each other, to reach out and touch one another, to care with each other, and to seek the truth divine. So be it.
We put the tall guys over there.
Well, Reverend David, as president of the congregation, I am delighted to welcome you as our new minister. In the last 2 years, this congregation has endured a dazzling amount of change. The departure of a beloved minister and friend, an interim minister who came and had to leave for health reasons, a second interim minister with us part-time who wasn't even able to come into the building till the last couple of months. And then, of course, a global pandemic, which has touched and transformed every part of church life. And now you, our new minister. We're going up. There have been difficult months and beautiful moments on this journey. Among so much change, we are excited to make a new beginning with you. Later this church year, we'll have a service of installation to formally recognize your work with us and our shared commitment together. For today, though, on behalf of our congregation, I will simply say, welcome home. Will you now all join with me in also saying, welcome home? Welcome home.
And David, on behalf of the staff, I enthusiastically welcome you to this amazing, fantastic congregation. He knows he's lucky to be with you guys, just
Yes, I
saying.
do.
We're lucky to have him too. And as of 5 o'clock today, you will have been in Colorado for all of 2 weeks. And it's already snowed and closed some of the passes. Yeah.
I was not advised of this in advance.
So already, I hope you and I can see the care and hope that Reverend David has for this congregation. I see you becoming a part of the body of this congregation already. In our conversations, I hear you paying attention to our past and yet looking towards an amazing future that we will create together in our shared ministry. Sometimes, not that you would do this, but sometimes there are congregations that treat a new minister as if all their troubles will be gone because he's showed up, he's saving the day, we're done, we're good. He's got it.
No, there's a second half to this part.
However, we are all lucky to know that we are in this together. This is a shared ministry. And when we have a new minister join us, we join in a commitment together with them to weave together a new future that we all create in that shared ministry. So this is what we do when we dance together. There are plans to make and people to know and things to do and a community to enfold. But know today that we are wrapping our love around you with our gratitude, and as we too welcome you home. Let's say it. Welcome home.
Thank you so much, Jim and Reverend Dana and friends gathered here who I've met and folks who I haven't even met yet and don't know. It is a joy to be with you this morning. It's good to be here. I arrive in this community with gratitude and excitement, and most of all filled with curiosity for the road ahead that we're going to make together. We're going to discover this path ahead by walking it in a shared ministry. And lest you think we're wandering in the wilderness, we're guided by a compass that's going to steer us right, whose 4 cardinal directions are connecting bravely and deepening spiritually, embodying justice and always loving. And hopeful as I am, none of us know what the future holds, but I trust that if we follow that compass, we're not going to get lost. So thank you for this warm welcome home. In just a moment, the middle school and high school kids are going to head off to class outside at the far end of the building. But I wanted to take this moment to you all who are in the house, children and youth, to say hello and introduce myself, because you may not be on the email threads that give you my bio and interests and all that. So it's so good to be here and to see you too. I'm the Reverend David Schwartz. Most recently, we lived in Chicago for 10 years. I have 2 kids, a 5th grader and a 7th grader. I'm an avid Minecrafter. My favorite thing to do is to fall from a high place. It's tragic. For those of you who don't play Minecraft, this is a Minecraft joke. And it's really good to be here. I'm looking forward to getting to know you who are not adults, just the same as I'm looking forward to getting to know the adults. And so with that quick word of welcome, friends, will you join in singing our kids off to their classes?
This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine.
Ritual is an outward expression of an inward experience. We invest ritual with a meaning that wells up from within and beyond us, but it moves us in both directions. Ritual changes and transforms us in the process. Now, on the table in front of me is a tray and 2 bowls. The tray is filled with extraordinary dirt. This is earth that was formed 1,000 generations of cottonwood and aspen leaves, watered by snowmelt and thunderstorms, burned by fire, mulched by buffalo hooves and prairie dog paws. This is from the land of the Ute and the Arapaho, the peoples, Ute and Arapaho peoples. It is sacred ground. The bowls contain stones from the Boulder Creek, little pieces of the mountain with their rough edges smoothed by time, by water, and by motion. So for those gathered here in person, if you feel so moved, I invite you to come forward and silently take a stone and place it into the tray. And that way we can merge our stones and our thoughts with those of the first services. And this will symbolize the joys and your cares and taking their place in a larger whole as we mingle with each other, held by the hands of the earth. As the music begins, please form a line off to my left, and we'll begin our ritual.
You are the heart, you are the hands, you are the voice of spirit on earth, and who you are and all you do is a blessing to the world. We are the voice of spirit on earth, and all we are and all we do is a blessing to the world. We're a blessing to the world.
For all these blessings and concerns, as well as those that remain silently in our hearts, we hold this compassionate space with love. Thank you for all the ways you bless one another.
Part of what it is to gather in this community is to entrust our lives into each other's hands, to let go of the easy and dangerous lie that we don't need other people, that we can just make it on our own. And so to all the stones here, we add a word of gratitude and joy that this afternoon, Fox Martin, Miles Rowe, and their friend Jack Lilly will become acknowledged for their Eagle Scout achievement, their Court of Honors this afternoon. We know that joy and sorrow are woven close together. And so today we remember also everyone in Afghanistan, in Haiti, experiencing extraordinary, unimaginable difficulty in the midst of uncertainty. For all those who gather online, we lift up your cares, your joys, your hopes and sorrows also. I invite you in this moment, whether you're here in person or gathering online, to settle yourself and center yourself. Let's start by taking a breath all together, just a long, deep breath. That's good, but let's do that again slower, like you got nowhere else to be, nowhere to go. The Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. says that religious experience is the awareness of the presence of the divine. And I want to say, not to get too hung up on the theology of this, but to move towards what he's pointing to. He says, religious experience is not an intellectual formation about God. It is a lasting acquaintance with God. Now, we're a deliberately theologically plural congregation. So there are folks for whom that language is going to make great sense right out of the gate, and folks for whom they won't. And that's okay. I lift this up, though, to say that religious experience is a quality of being, a quality of experience, a quality of relationship, an awareness of the presence of love, and a lasting acquaintance with love and with the reality of other people in all their complexity, just like ours. This is what we gather to do. And as hard as they may be playing, as hard and fierce as I may be preaching, the real work that happens in a Sunday service is the work you all are doing right now. The practice that you're doing to find ourselves again, who we are and what we're becoming, to reconnect with a larger reality of beauty, of wholeness, of community, of what some of us call God and some of us call the deepest sense of life itself. So friends, with all that preamble, let me invite you to settle yourself and center yourself in an attitude of prayer and contemplation, to let yourself be held by this good earth and held by this community. Our hope and our prayer this morning is to open our hearts, to open ourselves up, to remember the complexity, the wholeness of being human is not about being all one thing or another. But our hope and our prayer this morning is to remember that we are complicated people, each and all of us. None of us is our worst day. All of us are in the process of becoming. whatever private struggles you live inside of. However much it may feel sometimes like things aren't right, we remember this morning our connection with each other. We remember this morning that we're not in this life to go it alone, but to open up, to reach out, that a broken heart open to the beauty and the loss in this world is what makes us human. And as the music begins, let me share these words for reflection, these by my friend and mentor, the Reverend Victoria Safford. She writes this called The Gates of Hope. Our mission, our mission is to plant ourselves at the gates of hope, not the prudent gates of optimism, which are somewhat narrower, not the stalwart, boring gates of common sense, not the strident gates of self-righteousness, which creak on shrill and angry hinges, nor the cheerful, flimsy garden gate of everything's going to be all right. But to plant ourselves at a different and sometimes lonely place, the place of truth-telling, about your own soul, first of all, and its condition, to plant ourselves at the place of resistance and defiance, the piece of ground from which you see the world both as it is and as it could be, as it will be, the place from which you glimpse not only struggle, but the joy of the struggle. And we stand there. We're called to, we're invited to stand there, beckoning and calling, telling people what we're seeing, asking people what they see.
Let the way of the heart, let the way of the heart, let the way of the heart shine through.
It is so good to be sung into the pulpit that way. Y'all indulge me just a sec. Let's do a selfie together. All right. Here we, okay, everybody squeeze in. lean towards the middle. But also get no closer to each other. Thanks. In the city of Basra in Iraq, the librarian Aliyah Muhammad Bakr sometimes likes to remind her patrons that in the Quran, the first thing that God said to Muhammad was read. Read. This is exactly the sort of thing you would expect a librarian to say in Basra. In 2003, she was the chief librarian of the Central Library. And Basra was one of the first targets for British and US military, preparing their invasion at the far end of the story of nation building that we're seeing the end of right now. So she went to the governor there to ask if the books could be moved to a safer place. And he flatly denied this. To allow the books to be moved to safety would be to acknowledge that the threat was real, to acknowledge that his own time in power was coming to an end. When the invasion came, the government officials and soldiers that sheltered in the library abandoned it. And Aliyah was left alone, her and her library. Now, on the other side of the 7-foot wall that surrounds the grounds of this place was a restaurant. And Aliyah shouted over the wall to the owner, her friend, "Will you help me save the books?" And so he pulled out crates from the back room to form makeshift steps partway up the wall. And he took the curtains down from his windows. And all night long, Aliyah and him and his brothers and their neighbors took the books from library shelves and carried them in sacks made of curtains and passed them over the wall and stacked them in the dining room of the restaurant. 9 days later, the library and all the remaining books burned to the ground. Aliyah knew to keep the books safe, they had to be moved again. So she hired trucks, and in the quiet hours during the 3-week siege of the city, brought the books to the living rooms and the kitchens of her friends and waited for the war to end, dreaming of the future that they would build together. This is a beautiful and a true story, which immediately prompts a whole series of extremely cynical questions. Are you naive, librarian? Do you not have better things to do than save a book? What do you think you're accomplishing, one person? Who do you think you are? What possible hope do you have here? Maybe those aren't the questions that first came to mind hearing the story, but you know those kind of self-doubt questions too. That stuff comes to you. Now, my imagination tells me she could well have answered what you might say too when your hope is challenged. She might say, I did what I could. I did the difference that was within my power to make. In the commentaries on the Talmud, one rabbi says, you're not required to finish your work, good news perfectionists, but neither are you at liberty to stop doing it. That is, you're not called to save the whole world, you're called to do what you can. And your work to help heal the world isn't because you have a chance of making a difference for every single person, but because you have a hope of making a difference for someone. That's hope, that's real hope. That's not pessimism, that's not optimism. The writer Rebecca Solnit teases out these differences. She says, hope is an embrace of the unknown, of the unknowable. Hope is an alternative to the certainty of both optimists and pessimists. Optimists think it will be fine without our involvement, and pessimists take the opposite position. But both of them excuse themselves from acting. Hope, she says. Hope, against both of those. Hope is the belief that what we do matters. Even though how and when it matters, who and what it may impact are not things we can know beforehand. And we may not, in fact, know of them afterward either, but they matter all the same. So there's the first answer the librarian of Basra can give to the question of why bother, why hope. I'm going to start where I am and do what I can with what I have, just like any of us. Living into that sort of hope doesn't mean you all have to go relocate a library right now. The point of this story, the point of telling it isn't to say that you all have to go do great things, that only great things count. The point is to say that hope starts, hope lives in the place where you believe in the plausibility of the possible. The plausibility of the possible. It's possible to help a family in need of sanctuary. It's possible to connect with each other, even in the middle of pandemic. It's possible to hold services outdoors. It's possible to build a new way of living in community. It's possible that none of us is the worst day of our life. It's possible that another world is on the way. We might ask the librarian of Basra, why are you doing this? What are you thinking? This whole project could crumble with a fire, your arrest, a random shell misfired. There are days, and I know them well, when the hope for justice and transformation out in the world, the hope for the end result, is not enough to actually get you out of your bed. There are days, plenty of them, when a big and glorious vision of a possible future doesn't sustain you. What then? Well, there's a second reply she might give. An answer which is not about a hope and a particular set of goals and objectives to be achieved. An answer which is not about changing the world. She might have said also, I am doing this. I am carrying bag after bag of books over the wall because to do this act changes my life as much as it transforms the lives of whoever will read these in the future. She might say, only by acting with hope for the future do I become a person who believes the future is real. I'm doing this, she might say, like we do sometimes. I'm doing this because to survive in the world, I mean to survive with integrity, to survive with your heart, your soul intact, you have to be the kind of person who does it, who doesn't shut their eyes to the reality of what's right in front. She might say, to live in this world, I need to be a person who reaches out for help to my friends and my neighbors. She might have said, I'm not doing this to save the world. I'm doing this to save myself in the world. And so she went by plan through an unplanned storm that reached her, just as we're each and all doing right now. The poet William Stafford writes this called Found in a Storm, not lost in a storm, found in a storm. He says, a storm that needed a mountain found it where we were. We woke up in a gale that was reasoning with our tent, and all the persuaded snow streaked along, guessing the ground. We turned from that curtain down, but sometime we will turn back to the curtain and go by plan through an unplanned storm, disappearing into the cold, meanings in search of the world. Sometimes, friends, you come to this community for safety and support and solace in a storm. That's what church is for. Sometimes you need a good word, a stone placed in the dirt, a song that lifts you up, a handshake and a hug. Sometimes we turn away from the gale, and this community is for care and comfort and compassion. Sometimes we turn away from the storm and to each other. And Sometimes we will turn back to the curtain and go by plan through the unplanned storms of living. That's what church is for too, to go together into the cold, meanings in search of a world. Make no mistake, we're in a storm. This glorious sky distracts, but doesn't conceal the masks and distancing, the dwindling ICU beds and the rising transmission rates. We're in a storm. The sound of the wind and the birds soothes, and it carries on it the smoke of unimaginably large fires. As the West dries up and the Colorado River shrinks down, we're in the storm right now. Politically, as our country's nation-building adventure in Central Asia crumbles. When you called me in June to be your minister, with COVID cases falling and vaccines rising, it seemed like we were in the final act of the pandemic. This feels so long ago already, because just 2 months later, the world we had waited and prepared for is not yet the one in which we live. So we find a way here, with grace and care and curiosity and solidarity, because no two of us have had the same pandemic. But we dwell together in the beauty and difficulty of the unplanned. Unplanned. I learned last week that Colorado is home to rattlesnakes, black widows, brown recluse, and the prairie dogs carry the plague. Which plague? A friend asked. The plague. After the first service, someone came up to me to remind me, also bears and mountain lions. I'm still here. But what does that tell me? Well, put on some gloves before I clear out spider webs. What does that tell me? That you all are a resilient and adaptable people who make a home here, a people who know that hope and beauty doesn't mean a denial of danger or risk or loss. You're people who still go up into the hills and you listen for the rattles when you do, who still clean out the dark corners, but wear gloves when you do. You're people who wait for the city to quiet so you can hand bags of books over walls to our neighbors, who set up bookshelves in your kitchen waiting for the day a new library gets built. We're not called to be optimists and we're not called to be pessimists. We're not here to be cynical and we're not here to be naive. We're not called to save the whole world and we're not called to run from the reality of its brokenness. We're here. We're here to be a people of active hope in community, trusting that what we do matters, having faith that what we do matters, even though how and when, who and what it may impact. None of these we get to know beforehand, but we're planted right here at the gates of hope, the place of truth-telling, first about your own soul and its condition, the place of resistance and defiance, the piece of ground from which you see the world both as it is and as it could be, as it will be. And that's the fire of commitment that burns inside us, planted here. Amen.
This month, our offering goes to support the ministries and programs of this church. Everything that you see here, the tent, the Zoom, the hardware, our staff, our minister, happens because of your generosity. We are entirely self-sustaining through your gifts. For today's offering, please remain seated as you are, and the ushers will come to you. For those of you joining us remotely, you can make a donation now also using the link posted in the chat, or by sending a check to UCB, or by scanning the QR code on the next slide. We will now receive the offering.
The wind has helped us in extinguishing our chalice already. But we know that symbolic light, that fire of commitment, that hunger for compassion, and that love which reaches out across boundaries and borders is still alive and bright inside each of us. We go out into this world carrying that light. Amen. And go in peace.
For those of you at home, just stay there in the main room, and Jennifer will be setting up the chat rooms for you so that you can a little time of fellowship together. And as for the rest of us, we can meet right out here, set up along the center line of the parking lot. You'll find tea,